What's up? Get this all dialed in. Comes off here on my green screen. 2 minutes for the spin up. Audio coming through. Yep, looks good. Warm that up just a touch. Should help. Oh, not really. Oh, wait. Huh. Works. There we go. Line up the shoes. All right, let's get that cadence going. What's up, Andy? Good morning, back to the grind. Little 10-second spin-ups. Get those legs moving. What's up, Grinch? Oh, I wanted to get an update from you, Grinch. How is your, I gotta turn this audio down. How is your plan going with the Summerfest? I wanted to hear. Yeah, I wanted to hear how things are going with your plan, and if things are going well. Yeah. Morning, Jerry. Gotta dial back my music here. I should do it. I feel stronger after 2 weeks. That's great, man. That is actually awesome. I'm proud of you, dude. Super proud of you. Good morning, everybody. Going back to that shuttle game. Slow Cadence Shuttle, and I'm gonna drop in. Trainer Road has dropped something pretty big over the last couple days, and it's what's called adaptive training. Essentially AI-driven like training plan choices in their platform. So join me. We'll see if I can handle listening. To the Train Road podcast here. Should be good. You guys are good with a little bit faster than normal speed. It's a 2-hour podcast. See if we can get through it in an hour and a half. So Fritz, thanks for the ride on. Let me make sure I have a scene for this. Oh, team bus should work. TeamODZ should work. Oh no. Huh. That TeamODZ should work. That's gonna get laid out. I love this bike. Heck yeah. One of my favorites. One of my favorites. One of my favorite bikes in the game. Literally. Yeah, I do love this bike. Got bars? What do I got? Oh, I do. I don't really wanna. Should be okay. I'll recut them. Got one more sprint. Coach Mike has been on me about taking my whole workout from inside being low cadence. So we're gonna get on it today. Just about ready to get started on the podcast. Just give me a second here. And we'll get started. We'll get shared out. Make sure everything's laid out pretty. That looks good. And join me. Learn a little bit about the new stuff. There we go. All right. Cool. We get out of ERG. What are we doing? 400. That's quite a bit. Everyone here, we're gonna need low cadence 400. All right. Here we go. Put this up there. Road podcast loaded. Gonna make sure audio's coming through. Audio's gonna come through. Where's it gonna go? Where's it gonna go? Alright, let's go. Let's see if the audio's still good. Nope, not going anywhere. I need audio first.
Get faster with intelligent training driven by your goals to give you the right workout every time.
Well, that should be it, actually.
Adaptive training from TeamODZ is the future of training.
Yeah, there we
It
go.
uses machine learning, science-based coaching principles, and an unprecedented data set
Go
to
back
train
to
you
set.
as an individual. With every success,
All right, here we go.
you have goals and you're motivated to reach them. But the path to success isn't always clear. Until now. Get faster with intelligent training driven by your goals to give you the right workout every time. Adaptive training from TeamODZ is the future of training. It uses machine learning, science-based coaching principles, and an unprecedented data set to train you as an individual. With every success, or in response to any setback, adaptive training adjusts. Stay on track for your goals no matter what. You are an individual, and now your training plan is too. Use the power of adaptive training for your schedule, your life, and your goals. It's not just a training plan, it's your training plan. Adaptive training from TeamODZ, the right workout every time.
Hello, everyone. This is a giant day. I know I was going to say that, right? It's a giant day. It's a big podcast. We have a huge announcement, and what we're going to do today, we're going to go through all of it. I'm going to get to that in a second, but first I want to back up and talk about TrainerRoad's purpose. And you've heard us before talk about we make cyclists faster, but that is, our purpose is bigger than that. I want to talk about something called a BHAG. So BHAG is, Jim Collins came up with this, it's called Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. And this is what companies do, where they look at something, it should sound a little unreasonable and a little fantastical, maybe many years out. To give you an example,
really
FedEx in the 80s, their
and
BHAG was, let's deliver a package anywhere in the world
Chad
in 24 hours. And people were like, that sounds silly. Why would you want that? And that's impossible. Now today, it seems inevitable.
Talk about it here
right? It seems, of course, that the world's going to end up like that. Bill Gates, Microsoft, they talked about having a computer on everyone's desk. And that seemed crazy back then with the size of computers, and now you probably have 4 computers within reach of yourself, right? Think about how many computers are on an airplane, like when you sit down there. It's insane to think about that. Now for us, we have a bigger purpose. We want to make, our big BHAG is to make the world faster. And now that means something different for someone in their 70s than someone in their 20s. But if you think about a place where the world is faster, what that means is, well, their health is better, they're happier, we can reduce, by actually being faster and being a healthier person. This sounds silly, but I think you can change the economy of nations. Think of the US alone, how much money goes towards healthcare, how much pain and suffering goes for preventable disease, where if you were a, air quotes, faster, you know, faster is if you're healthy, you're faster, could happen in the world.
30 seconds.
Now, in order for this to happen, we think that AI is the way forward for this. And this has been in the plan since the beginning. This has been, I think, 3 years in development, what we're talking about today. And someone's going to do it, for sure. I think in 20 years, what will happen is it'll be inevitable. 20 years, human coach for skills, yes. But for picking your workouts, I highly doubt any of us are doing that. Now the question is, who's going to do it and how fast are they going to do it? Right? Yeah. And that's what we're going to talk about today inside of this very special podcast episode. So we're super excited about it. So here's how we're going to go through. And I know I'm going to talk a lot during this, but all the other co-hosts are going to come in too. We're going to talk about what it is, how it works. We're going to go into the machine learning, some of the data.
It's sped up,
Talk about some of the visioning for other features. We've been kind of radio silent on this sort of stuff because we didn't want to, like, I want to share, but I don't want to tease. So there's a difference in that, and you can know exactly what our future is and where we want to go.
Share,
and
but not
discussion
tease.
in the forum, trainer.com/forum.
We can learn from other groups.
Help even push it forward. And at the end, I know a lot of you want this, we are going to have a mention about polarized training, how we're going to leverage our machine learning inside of that, and I'll have an announcement at the end that I'm sure a lot of you are looking into for that too. So anyways, co-hosts, are you pumped?
So excited. So this is sorry, just one thing really quick. This is something that is that Amber's been working on. A lot of people behind the scenes have been working on this. So as we go through this and explain all of it, hopefully what we can do is give you insight, and we really are going to share a lot of behind the scenes on how this works. So what that means is that you'll understand why this is absolutely unique and unprecedented in this space right now. So a lot goes into this. It's really tough. Thank you, Amber, and many others for all of your work on this too.
It's a big team effort. There's a lot of people behind making this happen, you guys. And for everyone who's listening, thank you. You guys are amazing.
100%. Okay, so what is adaptive training that we're announcing today? The idea of this is we want your training to adapt based on your performance. Everybody's different. We'll talk, so previously with our training, we've always tried to do a bell curve, right? So if you say life's a bell curve, we try to hit the middle to get the most people better all the time. But there's all of these things that happen with physiology and with life in general that could make it that if you fell outside of that bell curve, without podcast, without knowledge and stuff, it was hard to adjust. And the podcast itself, we've been trying to say these things over the years to try to get it where if you do fall in those ones, you can make some kind of adjustments yourself. But we read, you've probably seen me around the forums on the internet, we read it all, and we tried to make a system to solve everything that we could and have that system self-improve, that core value of constant improvement in the future, that based on the data coming in, it gets better and better and better and learns from your performance as it goes along. So that's super exciting. I'm going to talk about, it's a lot of stuff to talk about. And because I'm talking about details, I'm hoping the other podcast coaches can help me with talking more about the value, because I will go just way deep in the details. And also too, there's some stuff that is proprietary. I'm going to try to call that out. And we'll have more discussions on the forum. I'm sure I'm just going to be typing for like days away. And it's really hard for me not to share everything, but I know there's some things I can't share. So I'm sorry about that. So the basis, the kind of core of adaptive training is built around the idea of progressions. So a progression, and this is progression per energy system. So one thing you may have seen in that launch video is we are breaking out sprint, anaerobic, VO2, threshold, sweet spot, tempo, endurance. Those are all now their own measured energy systems with their own progressions. But you don't have to test them, because we think that testing, there's its own inaccuracies inside of that. That's why we developed the ramp test. Rather than like a 20-minute or 8-minute test.
Yeah, it sounds
so what we've done is for these energy systems,
5.
We've built out progression. So they're measured in level 1 through 10. And they take into account the difficulty, the rest periods, the peak difficulty, the duration. And what this allows you to do is we can really finely measure where you are in this energy system.
Without
so Chad,
testing
what are some
Jerry?
Examples of progressions inside like an energy system?
Yeah, so let me give you just 3 really straightforward ones. If you look at an endurance ride, something where you're just doing long, slow distance at maybe 60, 65, maybe 70% of your threshold, maybe it's a 2-hour workout on a Sunday, and then the next Sunday it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and then the next Sunday it's 2 hours and 30. In that case, we're progressing it in terms of duration. Something like sweet spot, where I commonly start off with a 4x6 workout, that could progress to a 4x7 workout the next week, and then a 4x8. The progressions can take place in a number of different ways, but either way, we're focusing on that energy system and making it a little bit progressively more challenging and potentially productive the following week. In the VO2 max, it's really common to start with the traditional length 2-minute VO2 max repeats, and then we maybe progress that to 230s, and then a week or two later progress that to 3 minutes.
Do, right?
And it might not even be the duration, but also the percentage. So for VO2 max, a lower level VO2 max might be a 115. 117, and then what we can do is, based on your performance, we can start you at the correct spot. There's one thing that's super important in this that's going to mess with a bunch of people's brains. It has messed with all the TrainerRoad's employees' brains, is TSS versus like where you're in your progression level. Let me give you an example. 4 by 10 minutes at threshold in the same hour workout is the same TSS as 1 40-minute interval at threshold. Which one are you better? Which one are you stronger at?
Yeah, which one do you want to do?
Right. I think we all know which one of those is harder.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do a 40K TT, building in a progression from 10-minute intervals to 12 to 15, maybe then it's a little bit less, and having this system correctly can go get you to those 40 minutes. And we're going to talk about that with how this relates to ramp tests and how we make sure that you don't jump in too deep too early, because that's also been a problem with a lot of people. So I see here that, one other thing, it's really cool. We'll get into our machine learning failure rates on top of the workouts, but what we did is we developed it's an algorithm to rank the difficulty of workouts, and it's unique per energy system, but then also we have machine learning failure rates that we then we cross-referenced, and we have a very strong correlation between what how we rank workouts and actually like how likely someone is to finish those workouts based on our machine learning, the failure rates. And so I'm just saying we're very happy with it, and it's amazing how you can titrate really closely how difficult a workout is. I see here we got an image share coming up. Yeah, please share the image. Now I can't see this image at all, so I can't talk to it.
There you go.
Okay, so this now is called, sorry, let me bring this so I can see it better.
Joseph, absolutely.
This is a new chart. This is your progression level chart. So as you go through and you work inside of this new adaptive training system, you have a new level for endurance, tempo, sweet spot, threshold, VO2, anaerobic, and sprint. And as you accomplish a workout, these levels will adjust based on your performance. Now, there's different decay rates per energy system, and we've talked about this before. There's a different ability to do other workouts and get moved up, and there's also a relationship between energy systems. For instance, if you do a 2 by 20 threshold, well, it actually will push up your sweet spot energy system. And we've also used our data. What we did is, I alluded to this a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, is the relationship between how hard a level you can do in one workout energy system and how that relates to your performance in another energy system. And we use that data to figure out those, to be able to create these projections here too. And this built in with our plans allows you to see what your projected energy level inside of that system, like what your threshold level is going to be at the end of your plan and where you started at. So for instance, this athlete has increased all their levels and it's projected a lot in the future. Now, one thing that we've seen on this and that we're very worried about is that everyone might want to be like level 10s throughout everything. You don't need to do that. That's kind of like, this is a reflection of where you're at right now, and it's going to change a lot. And if you're a triathlete and your sprint says a level 2 or level 1, like, you don't need to make it level 10. But if you're a crit racer and your anaerobic says level 1 or 2, that's probably a bad thing, right? But our system will automatically help you improve that without you having to worry about it. So that's really the goal. Is let me say this a different way. If you've been someone, and we'll talk about this ramp test, but after you do a test, you have problems in a specific energy system, this is fixing that. This makes it so you get the appropriate VO2 max, you get the appropriate threshold, you get the appropriate sweet spot, the appropriate endurance based on your performance. And for everyone who's already been signed up, we already have your data. We know where you lie, and it's already been ran through it, which is super cool. Yes, Chad?
Yeah, so basically we're chasing improvement in relevant energy systems. We're not chasing perfection in all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is, so another way, energy systems,
Seven
we're kind of using that
zones
interchangeably right now with training zones and what your
inside?
power zones are.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify that. And then one of the things that we're looking at is, we know there are individual variations, not only in your physiology as an individual, but also in your training history too, right? So Pete and I are really good examples of some contrasting profiles in this regard. So Pete could progress his top end systems like VO2, anaerobic, and sprint way faster than I can. Like, he's going to start way ahead of me, no matter, even if he's coming off the couch. Chad, you had some comments on that one too, because he's kind of a unique animal.
He absolutely is. He's one of those guys who doesn't have a really high VO2 max, but he can work at long durations at really high percentages. I mean, he can almost hold VO2 max for minutes on end, whereas most people train for a couple minutes at a time before they have to rest, before they can do it again. So the way he progresses through VO2 max is very different than the way someone like I would progress through it.
Yeah, or me. Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
No, I just saying, like, to the these things change very quickly too, based on what you've trained recently and what you haven't trained. If you've done a whole bunch of threshold and you've never done any VO2, your VO2 is going to like pop up really fast, and it works vice versa too. And that's why we needed to build something where even inside of 6 weeks, like, your rate of ramp change depends on internal physiological changes, your past training history, but also your lifestyle and what's happening. So we didn't want to make it a static system. It had to learn from each performance and move forward. Wow. We'll get more on that in a second. Can I move on to ramp test, or you guys have anything else to say about the levels?
Well, I was just going to reiterate a little bit that, Pete is one, Pete has a certain kind of physiology profile where somebody like me, I can bring my FTP up really fast because I have a really, really long training history, but my top end always takes a little while to come around. So that's kind of where my physiology naturally lies. And just because your physiology is a certain way doesn't mean you have to play directly to that. Like Chad was saying, we want to be relevant. So what we want to do is look at what your goals are. So the goals are really important. Nate, you mentioned this. If you're a triathlete or you're somebody who's focused on 40K TT, we're not too worried about what your anaerobic or sprint zones are doing, right? We're really worried about where your threshold, VO2, and sweet spot are going to be. So what we want to do with the system is we want to help you get to where you want to be in the zones that are relevant to your goals. And we want to help you get there at the rate of progression that's going to be accurate and correct for your individual physiology. And not only your physiology, but what's going on in your life too. Because if you're going through a really high period of stress, that's probably not the time to progress really, really fast through your progression rate.
Yeah, and some things to add to this really quick, Nate. So a good point too, Amber. You mentioned that for the different types of riding you're going to do or racing you're going to do, but it's also dependent on the different phase that you're in. For example, in the base phase right now, my VO2 anaerobic and sprint, they're really low, and that's where they should be, right? Because I haven't been working on them. So to answer, I guess, the question of like, well, is this always going to make me year round as a crit racer really high anaerobic and sprint? No, it's going to train you as the athlete you need to be and build that as you go. What your levels will be is a manifestation of improvement along the way. So that's a really cool thing. I think a lot of us athletes are going to look at how we improve now from a totally different lens. Instead of just like, it's my FTP and dang, it didn't go up, or wow, it really went up. Instead, we get to see ourselves step all the way along. And for a specialty plan, and maybe for a specialty plan like the crit plan, maybe you won't see a big FTP increase, but that doesn't matter, right? Because you've done all that work, you've gone through a build phase, you've done all of that, and instead it's really about aerobic and sprint. So if I can just,
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, if your FTP hasn't gone up a lot, but you've gone from a point of being able to do 4x10 at threshold to now you can do a 1x40 at threshold, even if your FTP hasn't come up a lot, that's huge progress. That's huge progress. And now we can see that really clearly, and you can see it happening in real time as you're putting in the work.
It's cool. It is super rewarding. And one thing, Nate,
up,
just
Mike?
before I toss it back to you on this, I want to recap something very clearly for everybody. So if you are bad at VO2 max, this fixes it. If you are bad at sustained work, this fixes it. If you find yourself always coming, and Nate will talk about this in just a bit with the ramp test. If you find yourself frustrated because testing, whichever format you use, you feel like it doesn't give you an accurate read, this fixes it, whether it's high or low. So that's really important to get into all of our heads here because this uses these levels to be able to train you as an individual. It's super cool.
And I'd say too, it's not that you're bad at it, you just weren't in the middle of the bell curve.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it made things either too hard or too easy for you.
It's a relative weakness.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about the ramp test. So the ramp test is staying, and what we like about the ramp test is it is a repeatable all-out effort. You don't have to, we don't like the 20-minute or 8-minute test that we used to do because you had to know what your FTP was before you did it. Or you need to know your power target because if you don't do that, you won't have you won't hold a consistent average power. And if you know that, why even test? It seems kind of silly to do that. So, right?
Sorry, yeah, you just blew my mind on it. Sorry.
And two, with our data, with our failure rate data that we have, which again we're going to go into it more, we've seen that people who do the 20-minute or 8-minute test are more likely to fail workouts, but also do something we call internally a super pass, which means they go way above. So what we see is on those kind of tests, they aren't, they don't get people locked in as close as they should. But on the other hand, not everyone is that 75%. And I've seen people say that they either, they do the ramp test and either the next workouts are very easy or workouts that should be achievable are very hard. And that has killed me. Like I hate seeing those things. And what we've done on the podcast is we talked about, adjusting the workout intensity that's built inside of there. And you kind of like titrate yourself inside of workouts to be able to get a good, to get more fit. And that worked, but this is way better. So what we do now is after the ramp test, we have learned after ramp test, what levels you should be at. So if you are, air quotes, bad at VO2, and maybe you need to start your progression at a 115, 118%, well, we've now learned that, and we'll start you at that level in order to progress through that energy system. Same thing with threshold, that we can put you at the more appropriate place. And people are pretty wide. You can be all over the place. Another thing that this is really cool is inside of, because we have levels, and we've experienced this a little hard. Once you start doing it, you'll really experience it. But let's say my FTP right now, I'm a 350 FTP at a level 4. Threshold. If I'm a level 8 threshold at 350, I'm way faster. You get to really feel and see your performance increase without having to do a ramp test all the time. And then what we did is once you do a new ramp test and you get a new FTP, we made that relationship more linear. So everyone who's experienced that where you do a ramp test and then your next workout is so hard, it will now be more progressive and it'll be more lined up to your performance and where you should be. But two, you see some people, I hope this is the way that people start talking about it, but they'll say, hey, my FTP is, some big number. And you say, well, what level can you do? And they're like, I can do a level 2. We have an internal system that can show like a 370 level 2 is really like a 340 at level 8. There's some room in here that you can grow and stuff. And it's also nice as if you don't retest all the time. You got a good way to go up and down. I think people will, as you start using these, you'll really get to understand. John, you had something like this happen, didn't you?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast, and I've alluded to this. By the way, if anybody's playing the drinking game right now, I'm going to give you terms after this, and you're going to have to go back to prior episodes and find all the Easter eggs that we nested into this podcast, key terms for this to try to lead you all on. But anyways, within this, I was sick, took some time off on the bike, then took a ramp test, scored what I thought was low. It was 287. And I was like, man, in a week, I bet I'm going to be way above this. And if you're listening to this, you may have been in this situation before where you're either disappointed because you feel like the test doesn't represent your actual ability for one reason or another, or just, life dealt you lemons and that's all you could do. But I stayed the course because I wanted to test the system. And what happened is that as I started training, and and Nate will get into this in just a little bit, but we have the objective feedback that is our performance data, and then our subjective feedback, which is a very short, quick, one-click survey after you finish a ride to let you know how the ride felt. I was saying that ride felt easy, that ride felt easy. And then our system was giving me workouts within these progressions that were ramping up faster. Wow. And as a result, I got to that kind of, and forgive the term here, but I got to that sweet spot of where I needed to be. Sorry, yeah, it's good. Yeah. I got to that sweet spot of where I needed to be to hit the ideal progression. I had the best training I've ever had. And that was a 5-week loading block. Went into a ramp. So keep in mind, bad FTP test result in my mind, right? And then I had fantastic training right after that. So that's one thing. Then I had a really high, I thought high, like I ended up going all the way from 287 to 311, really excited. And everybody that's hearing this, the first thing that you think of when you have a really good ramp test result is you're like, oh my gosh, like my workouts are going to crush me, right?
Those next workouts. Yeah.
Yes. And I was terrified of it, but I went into my next workouts, perfectly linear build. So if I can like use my hands to illustrate this, you have a bad ramp test, you feel like your training isn't enough. And then you have a really good ramp test and you feel like your training is killing you and you drop back down again. It's not like that at all. So when you have these tests where the results are variable and not representative of what you feel, it doesn't matter. It adjusts for it as it goes. And then you get this really linear trajectory. And there's something really cool that happens when every single workout, and this is leading to, but every single workout falls within this achievable and productive range where it makes you excited to get back on the bike. It's discouraging to go through and to fail workout after workout, right? Or to feel like you're just not being strained enough with the workouts. And this makes sure that it's always like well calibrated to you. It's super cool and how it works the ramp test.
Yeah, big time. And I just want to jump in here and say, if anybody thinks it sounds really complicated, it is. But at the end of the day, what this means for you is you get to see the progress that you're doing, where you're putting in the work. And a lot of the things that we've been talking about on the podcast and encouraging our athletes to do, it's going to be automated in the system. So a lot of these bumps in the road that you might have experienced where, it was a matter of having to listen to your body and kind of figure out where you need to be, this system actually does it for you. So even though what we're talking about right now sounds complicated, what adaptive training does is it makes it just automated, easy, and you don't have to do anything. It's going to do it for you. Nate's going to get in a little bit more detail on that, but just remember, it's from the standpoint of how this is going to make your life. It's going to make your life easier, less complicated, and easier.
What it feels like is the right workout every time. Yeah, and that's honestly just what it feels like, and that's as easy as it is to use.
Chill.
Like all this stuff that we're talking about, we're revealing we're lifting the curtain, showing you everything behind. But when you train, it just feels like the right workout every time.
The goal is, and this sounds funny, but is clone Chad. So if you had, if after every workout, you could have a little quick chat with Chad and he found out something and he's like, okay, I'm going to adjust your training plan, blah, 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 blah. But Chad also had the knowledge of 100 million workouts in his brain of how that can then adapt and move people around. That is what the goal is. And that's the long-term goal on this, absolutely, is to be a human coach for picking workouts. And I believe that what we're announcing today beats a lot of them. I don't have the data that's going to beat everyone, but in all situations, but we're going to try our best to get there. And I think it beats a lot of coaches. Sorry, coaches. I still love you for skills and accountability and all this sort of stuff. Okay, so going back, there is talking about the levels. Now, inside the levels, we know the progression and we know what level you are inside of it. Now, one issue we've had, and we have a lot of data on this, it was horrible. People would sign up for Trainer Road, they would do the ramp test, and then they would do this workout called Trainer Road. And Avid was it was like 2 A's in a row, or AB, and it was right at the top of the workout list.
So it's alphabetical.
So
I'm not in the beta yet.
That is like a level 9 anaerobic workout.
A week ago.
Destroy people. It was so hard. And then we would see in the data, they did one workout, and they left Trainer Road. And then people go, Trainer Road is too hard. Because they were expecting every workout to be achievable for them at whatever the fitness level is. And this is our fault, because we did not put guardrails on it, right? We gave you just a bunch of knives, and we're like, you go for it. You figure out the knife you want in that situation. The training plan was better, but the workout library had no context. And IF and TSS, although good in some ways, did not give you enough information to make these choices intelligently. And it's hard to communicate. I mean, it's really hard. Have you ever tried telling someone what intensity factor is who's never been into power training stuff? It's very hard to explain. So what we do is we've categorized all of our workouts now. This is a dynamic categorization for you. And we have 4 different levels. I think it's 4. So we have one is achievable. This is anything that's below your current level in that zone. An achievable workout, that's like money in the bank. It might be a little bit hard, but it's not one of those really stressful ones. You can do it. The plans will have achievable workouts on them. These are like kind of don't feel bad about doing achievable workouts. You're getting something done. They're good. The next one is called progressive. Progressive means by doing this, you are pushing your level forward, but it's in a progressive, productive manner. That's productive, isn't it?
Yeah, productive is.
Yeah, I always keep calling it. We had different internal names, so I keep calling it the wrong thing. Productive. The workout after that is called stretch. Now, a stretch workout, you probably have all heard of this, is where you might be thinking, like John did, hey, I feel extra good today. I want to do something a little bit more. And you can attempt a stretch workout. We're not going to really, prescribe it to you, but if you want to, you can, and then our system will learn faster because you then achieve that stretch workout. After that, there's breakthrough. Breakthrough is many levels above your current level. If for some reason you think everything is wrong for you, you can achieve a breakthrough workout and then move forward. And then we have not recommended after that. That's for many levels, and not recommended. Those are our rails. So now what happens is when new users come in, we're going to talk about training now and the training plans for a second, but at least in the workout list, there's some not recommended. You can see ones that are achievable, which ones are productive for you, and that really helps. I'm going to talk about workout profiles next. Okay, can we move to workout profiles?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully this all works correctly. I've never done this live on the internet. Okay. Okay, we have a new, one more level of profiling our workouts. So let me go into VO2 max. VO2 max, there's a lot of different ways. There's short shorts, there's sustained, float sets, and inside of a workout, or inside of a energy system, and progression side of that, it's very different to do a workout that's like this, which is, what is this, 30 on, 30 off, versus a traditional one where it's a long ramp. So we have categorized all of our, 1,400 workouts or something that we have. So you can come in here and you can say, well, here are all the on-off workouts. Those will load, and then they're by progression. So the easiest ones, so you can do D-5, and then as you go down, you can see more levels and more workouts. You can mark them on the side to see all the levels if you want to see what the level 8s look like, the duration, but also the difficulty. So now I can say, hey, today if I want to do a VO2 max on-off and choose productive, it will show me all of those in order. So based on my current levels, this now shows all the workouts that would be productive for me, and I can do more, filtering by duration, that sort of stuff.
That was 20 minutes.
This feature that I'm talking about right here, this is more for what we call like data scientists.
Shuttle.
There's another persona that we call just telling you what to do, and I'm going to show you, or we're going to show you in a little bit. If you don't have to know any of this stuff, I'm kind of just explaining the details. We're just going to give you workouts that are good for you. But if you really want to get into it, you can look at it. And I want to tell everyone too, the difference between a 4, 4.5, and a 5.1. Like you can feel it, right, Kane?
Yes.
Oh yeah, substantial. Oh yeah.
So if I wanted to too, I could say, where are all the sustained VO2 max that are productive for me? Those will come up, and these are very different workouts. But this is, last week we were talking about, or 2 weeks ago, searching for over-unders, and I was like, oh, there's such a good way to do over-unders. But now I can open up Threshold, click on over-unders, and I can have I'm gonna try productive, and I can have a complete list from easy to hard of what those levels are. Now, one thing I want to be clear here is that not all combos are possible. So if you want a threshold workout that is 2 hours long in a level 1, it's probably not in our system, because just the fact that it is so long, there's no easy workout for that, okay? So, or you want a 4-hour endurance ride that is a level 1. That's just not possible. So if you see holes in it, that is why. But you can still move through and see all this stuff. So this part, workout profiles, it's a very small part of it, but it is needed to build these progressive systems inside of training plans and to use the new Train Now feature. Yes, Amber?
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize that when you look at this list and you see these labels of achievable and productive, that's achievable for you on that day, productive for you on that day. So different people at different points in their training plans are going to see different labels on possibly the same workout, because your fitness is going to be changing throughout your own training plan, and somebody else's fitness is going to be different from yours. So depending on whether or not a workout is achievable, productive, stretch, or breakthrough for you is going to depend on where you are in your training plan and what your individual progression levels are in the moment. So all of this stuff is going to change real time as you're progressing through your plan, and it's going to be individual to you.
Exactly. So that's a great segue, Amber. Thank you. Into training plans. Here is a problem with 2 problems. The first problem with our training plan is our current training plans are, if you miss something, the next week gets harder. And this has been how we describe to people, like, if we're doing squats with 200 pounds on our backs and it crushes you, we're like, next week we're doing 225, then we're doing 250. And you could have manually adjusted and repeated workouts before, but because what you do is you miss that progression, and you miss a step in the progression because you failed it. And it might have been just because you had a bad night's sleep. It could have been because you didn't have time to finish the workout, you got busy, right? So now what happens inside of that is based on your ramp test and your progression levels, it's a custom training plan for you. But then as you go through it, it is constantly adapting to your performance. So if you miss a workout, it will make sure that that it gets you the correct workout after that, even with the amount of space and time between the workouts. It's very cool. Yeah, John?
Yeah, and so I'm going to apply some context to this. So you work a really hard day, right? And you're completely exhausted. This is another way that it will be adjusting this. And you can't do your workout for one reason or another, or you fail the workout. Once again, that same thing is going to happen of not making you just jump up to the next rung on the ladder for the next workout. It will adjust for that. So I just saw that question come through on the live stream, and I figure a lot of people probably have a question like that. And that's how this addresses those sort of problems right there. It's super cool. It's not up to you to filter through and find those workouts. This is what the system does. It makes sure you get the right workout that you need at that time.
Yeah, so everything I just talked about with workout profiles, levels, stretch, breakthrough, with adaptive training, literally, it just comes up and says adaptions. You can click yes or accept always. So if you don't care about the details, you click accept always, and your plan just always updates automatically, like someone was in there changing it for you based on your performance.
Right. So I'm just going to give a quick high-level comment on this. So the way it works is we're going to check in with what's going on with your plan almost every day, at least every scheduled workout. We're going to check and see, has something happened? How did the previous workout go? Where are your progression levels right now? Have they changed? And do we need to adapt to your upcoming workouts? And if we do, you're going to get an automatic adaptation. And so your plan, your training plan is, we're constantly checking your training plan, and we're constantly updating it for you. And you can decide how you want to do it. You can either accept those adaptations or not, or auto accept them, and it'll just automatically update. But it's going to be constantly adapting to exactly what's going on with you as an individual in your life, which is amazing. So again, this is like we're trying to. These are things that we have tried to empower athletes to do for themselves, but now we're going to be able to do this automatically for you within your training plan with adaptive training as a system.
It trains you as an individual. That's the cool part, right? Yeah.
For those who are joining us now, there is a link in the chat, and in that link you can get a direct launch to our direct link to our launch video that kind of explains this very quickly with Chad's glorious voiceover. It was so good. Inside Baseball, we had all these other voiceovers, and we're like, we should do it. And second, our website is currently down because people are hugging it so much, but the team is working on it. I'm sure they are freaked out, but we appreciate the hug. Aaron, did you have something before I move into the next thing? Okay, so now next we want to talk about our training interruptions. Now this is a big part. This is really cool. Amber, why don't you describe this? You built it. You built, so Amber, by the way, built a lot of this, so I really didn't do much.
Awesome.
My team did. So, well, my team, there were multiple teams working on this collaboratively behind the scenes. So there's one really cool thing around here is there's a lot of brain power, and it is so much fun to work in this environment. But what we've done is there's a couple of different ways that we can handle missed training. So right when you're planning out your next couple months of training, chances are you know that there's going to be some time where you can't train, either because you have a work function, maybe someday soon some of us can have vacation again. But if you have any planned time off, when you put that in your plan, our logic will adapt your training plan automatically around that time off. And then if you have, and so that's kind of the proactive way that we do this. We can anticipate planned time off and we can adapt around it. So you no longer have to make those changes manually in your plan. And then we can also reactively adapt your plan. So if you have some unexpected time off, whether, you just had a really stressful day, maybe you had an unexpected scheduling conflict, you couldn't do your workout, maybe you had to do a different workout. Our logic will detect that, and we will update your training plan accordingly. So you don't have to go in having missed a workout and get on the forum or ask us on the podcast, hey, what do? I just missed, this many workouts on this volume plan. Nope, it's done. We handle it for you, and you just go on your merry way. So that, and this is how it is, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. Life is not perfect. We don't, we can't control all these different factors in our lives. We have to roll with the punches sometimes, and that can be really stressful because there's the stress of knowing you didn't do your workout, and then there's the added stress of, okay, well, what do I do now? Well, we're going to take that stress away, and we're going to we're just going to get you back on track because life happens. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't progress and meet your goals. You just get back on track when you can, and that's what the system does for you.
And to recap this, and thanks, Amber, you just mentioned I may be out of a job now because you're just not going to send podcast questions anymore. But
Seriously, what's the podcast going to be about now?
I know, right?
Jonathan's bike
Here's a chat.
sponsors.
Exactly.
I don't think I can handle 2 hours of that.
Might get pretty rough. Might have to change it to an afternoon slot too instead of the morning. But so with this though, I want to recap something that Amber just said that's super important. Really common question that we get. I just missed this workout. How do I adjust my training plan? I have this time that I'm traveling for business or for work or something else. How do I adjust my training plan? All of this now adjusts. It does it proactively when you schedule that time off and reactively when you just miss it and it was totally unexpected. So rejoice, everybody, that is adjusting. The way that it adjusts, once again, isn't just by like taking a chunk out of your training plan. Plan Builder will lay out this linear trajectory for you, but it doesn't just cut that out. Just like Nate said, it's not going to expect you to jump that gap. It's going to bring you down at the appropriate levels based on the time off that you have and based on the athlete that you are.
Yeah, and one of the really cool benefits that we've actually seen in our internal testing with this is not only does it take the stress away of, oh my gosh, what do I do? But it also increases your confidence because you can see, even if you miss a workout or two, that you're still progressing. You can watch how your levels are changing and you can see how you can still progress even when things get off track for a short period of time. And that's an amazing part. I mean, we all know that the mental emotional side of this is really, really powerful. And this is an unexpected benefit that we saw here too, was not only we're taking away the stress, but you get this awesome confidence of being able to see all the progress that you're making and to know that if you miss a workout or two, all is not lost. You haven't just lost all of that effort. It hasn't all just gone to waste. You can actually see the money in the bank and you can see those deposits adding up over time, and it's so awesome.
And I mean, this happened to me before. You take 10 days off because of a trip and your workout coming back, you're like, oof, it's like twice as hard as it was before you left and you haven't trained. This learns from that. And there's your energy systems will degrade over time. Like they aren't stuck there because your fitness, I mean, wouldn't that be nice if your fitness just stayed where you were? That'd be totally cool. But then the system then reflects that. And we'll talk about ML in a little bit with that. But the cool part, you might be saying, well, why do I have to put this data in the future? Why wouldn't I just, miss it and it would adapt? It does two things. Well, one, there's different types. There's like time off or sickness, and both of those drive our machine learning. But also what we're going to talk about in a second is machine learning FTP prediction by plan block, which is so cool. And so what we can do is figure out based on where your blocks are, we have a better prediction of what your FTP will be after not just that block, but many blocks. Get your performance based on a whole bunch of stuff, which we're going to get into. That's a little teaser. We haven't even got into any of the back-end system of how this is all possible, but it's going to happen. Okay, what are we moving to next? Train now? Is that what we should go?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what we have now, we have a new system. We have progressions, we have levels, we have workout profiles.
Right now.
If you're using Plan Builder, you have adaptive training where it will adapt your workout. You have a dynamic plan. But there is a large portion of people, including, I think everyone actually falls into this sometimes in their life, where you don't want to follow a long training plan. You want to get more fit, you want to get faster, but you want to be just a little more flexible in your system. So what we have now is a new feature called Train Now. And Train Now is built with that same back-end system with your levels, the workout profiles, where you are in your progression. But what we do is just show you 3 workouts: an aerobic ride, a climbing ride, and attacking. And for those who want to know in the back end, attacking is VO2 max anaerobic, climbing is threshold sweet spot, and aerobic is endurance or tempo. And what you can do is you open the app, you say what duration of time you want to work out for. So it's defaulted to 60 minutes, but if you have 45 minutes, 30 minutes, you can choose a 30-minute workout, and it will show you what workouts are good for you for 30 minutes. You should be able to get on the bike within, 10 seconds of opening the app, have a workout, and start going, without having to do all this stuff and picking these workouts and going through with a little shuffle button if you want 3 other ones. But we found this is a great way to discover more workouts, but also just stay consistent, because that's really what the most important part is staying consistent. And if you miss a day, you just open up another one. You can kind of go what you feel like. That is so much better than not training or to train unstructured and just kind of writing how you feel about putting these together.
Or to try to jump in and do something that's like jumping in and doing something that's way too hard and just crushing yourself and then imploding and then not wanting to get on the bike for a while. This is going to make it so that you jump in, as Johnson said earlier, workout every time. It's just we're going to give you a workout that you can do. You can have confidence in that. And again, confidence building, consistency building. This is all what we say over and over on the podcast, but now it's automatic and it's integrated in the system.
Yeah, we're trying to basically make this podcast boring.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see myself out.
I'm sure there's some personal stuff we can talk about. There's always feelings. Feelings are good. There's a lot of feelings inside of cycling. So, and Train Now it's live in the mobile app and in the desktop. There's been a whole thread about trying to figure out what this is. Right now, Train Now doesn't show the levels and the breakthrough part, depending on what we have an A/B test going. But in general, it's super cool. It's a really fun way to work out. So now I want to talk about. Actually, no, let's show Train Now.
Let's do it.
There you go.
Okay, I am sharing my screen now. Okay, so this is what Train Now looks like. I have 3 workouts. I have endurance, a climbing, and an attacking. And you can see here it shows my level. So right here I have a productive and achievable. What this blue A means on attacking for achievable means that this isn't going to be a workout that pushes me forward. And you know what? Some days you feel like an achievable. And this is, I can't stress this enough. It is better on those days that you have a high stress day, you're kind of tired, you have choice. You could do an endurance ride, you could do a recovery ride, which we have those categories now too, we haven't mentioned that. But just doing an achievable workout where you feel like, I'm not 100%, it's money in the bank, please do it, the system will learn, it is amazing. Don't feel bad about doing achievable work, feel amazing. And sometimes too, it changes your mood, right? Like, Amber, did you have this kind of stuff in your pro athlete life? Did you always have to like bang it as hard as you could?
No, and this is when you, yeah, for sure. I have a lot of thoughts, sorry, and I'm really excited if anybody can tell, so I'm tripping over my words a little bit here. But exactly, you don't necessarily need to be pushing the edge of the envelope every single day. That's a recipe for disaster. What you want to do is you want some days to be pushing you and being productive, maybe even some days being stretched, but between those, you want to have these achievable days where you're maintaining and you're reinforcing some of those adaptations. You're not necessarily pushing for new adaptations, you're reinforcing and maintaining the adaptations that you've already achieved. And these achievable ones are great for this, especially, you know, when it comes to consistency. So if you're having kind of an off day, or maybe you just had a really good productive workout, or you just had a stretch workout that was really successful, you don't have to keep doing that at that level. You can dial it back a little bit. And if that's going to help you with consistency, so much the better. And this is definitely the case throughout my career. I mean, was never doing, you know, knockdown, drag out, fall off the bike days every day of a training plan. It's just not sustainable or realistic. And it's not actually productive for your fitness either. So, you know, don't be fooled by the achievable label. These workouts are actually, I mean, these workouts can be like the bread and butter of progressing your fitness actually. So they're great all around workouts for maintaining, and then even just those days where you feel like, yeah, you know, I want to get on the bike, I want to do something for my health and my mental health, especially because we all know sometimes the bike is an escape, and these are the workouts that are just, you're going to get off the bike and you're just going to feel so good. You're just going to feel good.
I might be doing Sleeping Beauty today actually, because I'm sure my brain will be like drained from today's podcast, but I want to get some VO2 in. So look at this. So this is so cool. Let's say not everyone has 60 minutes, and this has been also another weakness of our training plans is there weren't workouts that were less than 60 minutes, like in general. But if you want to jump on, and let's say you want to do a 45-minute workout, oh, here they are. And here's right away I could just jump into Mount Forker at the correct level, at the correct intensity for me. It would be productive, and I get something done. Let's see, is there any 30 minutes? There are 30 minutes. And 2, again, life gets in the way. You can't train today. You see our training plan, you had a 90-minute workout scheduled. Ooh, what if I could jump into something a little bit easier, which is so cool. So if you want to see more, you hit shuffle. I can go up to 90 minutes. I got a little more time. The nice thing too is because of the duration of the workout is taken into account in the levels, if you extend something to be longer, the intensity is always going to be a little bit lower because it's longer and it's harder to do. And that has all been manufactured. So if you are a level 4 in threshold for 60 minutes, you can do a level 4 for 90 minutes and it should feel exactly as hard. Okay, that's very important to know. I want to go talk about now about this feature that we should have named something better, but it's called harder, easier, longer, shorter. Our internal name of it is held, and we should have came up with a better name of it. But it's all
we now call it alternates. Yeah,
It's alternates. Sorry, John. John, the communications guy. Don't call it hell. It's called alternates.
That's what I'm about.
So inside the app, what we now have, what we had before is you could see like the different versions of Beacon. So this is Beacon -1, and you could see. So for those listening to the podcast, I am drilled into the app. I'm looking at Beacon -1, and before you could look at the other ones, but they weren't exactly like Beacon -2 wasn't always slightly less. Beacon -3 wasn't always slightly less easier, and it just wasn't titrated enough for what we wanted to do. But now what you can do is you can click on alternates, and you can see for this energy system what other workouts are productive for this duration. And also, what is this for? One, you might just say, I've done this workout before. I want another workout. You can get another workout that achieves the same goal, but have some variety in your life, which is really awesome. But the better use case is for this day, you might say, I have a little more time or a little less time. So if that's the case, what you could do is say, I'm clicking on a drop down. Instead of 90 minutes, because of my schedule, I only have 75 minutes. I can't do this whole workout. So if I click on that, I get productive workouts in this workout profile for 75 minutes. And then you can start going. Another case is you say you might want a little bit harder, a little bit easier. So I could choose achievable. Here are all the achievable 75-minute workouts that are in here. Or what I could do is say, I'm actually feeling really good. I want to challenge myself, and I'm going to go for a stretch workout. And if I choose stretch, I can make something a little bit harder. And I can find all the 90-minute workouts that would actually progress my fitness faster. And I'm kind of testing myself inside of this.
Cool.
This is super cool. It's the ability to add your own RPE and how you feel to make small changes, or because of your schedule, without messing up your training plan. And again, the plan adapts moving forward in the future.
Take a little bit from the athlete, right?
So that is what we call workout alternatives and Train Now. It's so cool.
Yeah,
Anything else?
Workout
Yeah, go ahead.
alternatives.
Yeah, I was just going to share on this. So just to recap something that Nate said that's very important. Just because you have Beacon on your calendar, Beacon -1 doesn't mean it's easier. But here's the cool part about all this. Once again, our system is looking at all the different workouts and the way it's been able to classify them with great precision to make sure that you get the right workout. So it might look different, but it's going to put the right fitness sprinkles into the right buckets, so to speak. So you still get what you need accomplished at the end of the workout. This is super. So I think that these two features are going to be heavily used because all of us know that life serves us lemons at times. So we make lemonade instead of just not doing anything with it and skipping the workout. Now we have great options to do that. And for Train Now, so many people, committing to a training plan is a big thing, and it's tough for a lot of people. It gets way easier now with adaptive training because you don't have to hold yourself to a linear standard. Instead, it's constantly adapting the training plan to you. But Train Now is going to be awesome for so many people too. You can just drop in and you always have the workout that's like exactly what you need. So it can be. I'm super excited for both of those features. I think they're going to be very heavily used. So cheers to the team that made those. It's awesome.
Okay, so do we want to talk more about the features, or can we get to go into the next part about how we built this? And we're going to talk about some more features too, and then upcoming features.
Let's do it. Let's get into how we built it because this is the exciting stuff. I like it. Okay. Nerdy stuff, but exciting.
So this is how we built it, and we've been listening to you this whole time, and we've been hearing all the things that you've requested of trying to improve, and we knew that we had to make a highly individualized and customized system. And the goal too was to make this system learn off itself and get better and better and better, because there's no way that we could build something static that could achieve the goals of making cyclists faster, but also making the world faster. So I want to say 3 years ago, it would actually started a little bit before 3 years ago when we tried to do something. It didn't work. We gave up on it. But I'm going to walk you through some of the AI and data science that we were using on this, and we've had a team for years working to move this forward. So first, what is AI and ML? Well, AI is a big branch. Like AI has a whole bunch of stuff. That's called artificial intelligence, and it could mean many, many different things. But what we're using inside of this is called machine learning. And machine learning is supposed to be able to connect complex things that a human could never figure out and come up with outcomes or predictions for that based on the complex set of data. What we have done, it's kind of hard to explain which part first, but what you do in machine learning is you give the AI a data set, and you say, okay, in this data set, here's what you're trying to optimize for, and here's some data. And what it does is it looks at that, and it starts to analyze the data and figure that out. And by the signposts that you give for machine learning are called features. So a feature is something where you have a data engineer describe something about somebody's history or training and put that into like a cell. And then that then gets carried forward for that, I'm gonna use person or athlete because that's what we're talking about right now. And then it can say, how does this relate to the outcome? So in our system, we have over 100 features that we've written for everybody to describe what their training is and how it goes. And those features are totally proprietary because the advantage that we have is the data set of the plan versus actuals. Even the big companies like Garmin and Strava, they don't have the plan versus actual, which is extremely important inside of this data set. And two is what features you build, because you could have the same data set, but if you don't build the right features, you're never going to get the data out. And we're also going to talk about, a common thing I've heard, and we'll get into it, but I'll just do it right now. As you say, well, you're Trainer Road, so isn't all the data just Trainer Road data? And isn't all just plans? Because if it's just plans, then your ML and the smart people think this will just show only that the ML or that your training plans work. But luckily, we have a very, very wide set of data. So as people sync their data in, we get their entire career and moving forward inside and outside rides. So we get to see you before you join Trainer Road. And then less than half people follow our training plans. The other part, people do custom workouts. They're coached. They just pick their own workouts. That's a very good other set of tens and tens of millions of rides. Actually, we have over 100 million rides in our system now. I just checked. Congrats for us to be able to show that against. And then another part of that is there's a large amount of you who you will use us during the fall and winter. And then during the summer, you have completely different training outside. And that is also a great way to learn about what makes a cyclist faster, to have some of these different cases inside of it. So we are extremely aware of it. And we're going to talk about, too, of some different ways that we're going to get specific other type of data into our system. But it is, I can't stress this enough, that we are extremely aware of it and cognizant of it. And we want to make sure that we don't just like solve our own problem because of the data set we have. So, so machine learning, you got the data, you're training it. And then what you do is you take that and you go against a different data set where you know the outcome and you test it. So you have a little bit of training data and then you have another set of data and you say, well, how well did this work against it? And that's where you can add new features and you can say, did this improve the model or did this not improve the model? And for us, because ours is time-based and we have so much history in our system, we can step back and say, okay, let's start going in 2013 and we'll see, we'll start running through data. This system will try to do things, either predict or classify some kind of thing inside of our system. And then we have the actuals of what it was. And then we can say, oh, if we add, let's say, 6-week TSS average, that's an easy one to think of, did that then increase or decrease the accuracy of the model? And so what our data engineers do is they're building features all the time. They're running it through it, and they keep trying to increase the accuracy of the model against that data set, which is super duper cool. So one thing, does that make sense, ML people?
I'm not an ML people, but that makes sense to me, so whatever that's worth.
Okay, so a key part of this, which is, it sounds simple, but it was hard to build, is our workout classifier.
Number 4.
And what this is we needed to know what workouts you did as prescribed and which ones you didn't. And it's not just a yes or no, is that what our classifier does is it actually looks and can tell if you even struggled at a workout, because there's not just pass fail, right? We can also tell if you super passed it, because all of those things influence the system moving forward. It can tell if you just ran out of time with a little help from the survey. But if you, how many times have you done it where you do a workout and you backpedal for 30 seconds, or you're doing 30-30s and you miss one? Do we want to air quote, like, you know, mark it as something like a, this is bad to say, but it's not a failure, but in our internal system it's called that? Or is it just a struggle, right? And based on where we push you forward and getting some feedback from you, some qualitative feedback, that then teaches us. So what we did to build that is we classified, and we had a human go through, for Brandon, I think it was Brandon, some other people. It was
Brandon all the data science team,
Yeah.
They looked at workouts and said, hey, what do we think this is? And they would classify it. And you take that data set, you then run it against a larger data set, you look at the outcomes, and then it got to the point where we'd have many people inside the company look at workouts, and maybe 8 would say this way and 2 would say this way, because a lot of it's subjective when you get really fine details to it. But the ML was always in the majority case, and then the other 2 would be like, actually, I do think it's that. So we got it better than what we think we could do as a human, and then it can then push that forward. Okay, so that's the
machine learning.
That's that part of it. I'm trying to think about where to jump next. I'm not even following the doc. I'm just talking. Oh, let's do an image share of the Superpass. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, producer Aaron, by the way, for running all this behind the scenes. We appreciate it.
Okay, so these are examples of different types of workouts and what their outcomes are. So a Superpass is, you've probably seen it where you might have experienced it, where you turn the workout up, and everyone is a little bit harder. And what we need to do is we need to learn from that, so that way we can feed that into our system and able to analyze your performance and move you forward. If you just nail it exactly right. So what I'm showing, sorry for the Superpass for those on the podcast, is it is a workout where you're above target for all your intervals, or for some of your intervals. Pass is you're right on there. You know, everything's just nailed perfectly. A struggle is is where it is a little bit lower on some intervals. Let's say you turn an interval down, you still did it. Like if you turn it down 2%. Yeah, Amber?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I was just gesturing as you were talking, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you're gonna struggle, and it doesn't mean that it's not money in the banks, but yeah, please keep going. Sorry.
Exactly. Then we have a failure outcome, which is, and we should probably not even say in our internal ones, you didn't fail. It's still money in the bank, but you didn't do the workout as prescribed. Okay. And then there's the cut short, and the cut short is for some reason in the middle of the workout you had an issue. And again, we're gonna talk about some of the surveys afterwards to be able to better move this data forward. But this is what this is how our machine learning classifications do. So inside of this, there's a lot of more information that we've built to make sure this happens. And there's a lot of information too that we're going to come on. It's going to come in. So we have our, actually I'll just talk about it right now. We have the workout surveys. Can we put up a picture of a workout survey? And what workout surveys are after your workout, what we need is a 1 through 5, how hard or how did this effort feel? And this is, it's very simple. Think of it as RPE, and this isn't relative to that effort. This is just how hard did it feel. So an aerobic ride is usually pretty easy or moderate, and a VO2 max ride is usually hard, very hard, or all out. So I'm going to walk you through the choices. It's easy, moderate, hard, very hard, or all out. And why do we need this? Because if you're doing a 2x20 sweet spot, and that was an all-out effort for you, even though you did it as prescribed and we said it's a pass, we need to adjust your training. On the other fact, like John said, if you do 2x20 sweet spot and you say it's easy, we need to adjust your training on that too. And what this does is this allows us, we can feed this into our ML2 and detect patterns for you. I'm thinking, you know,
all right, later, Jerry.
Too,
Thanks
but
for
also
joining in.
really change those next
I know you have
workouts
this in
to
your
make sure you're on the
queue,
right progression
so
as you're moving forward.
check it out.
In certain workouts, like again, we don't want every workout to be all out. Very, very, I mean, ramp test should be all out. Other than that, I don't think we're ever going to have you do all out every time. Races should be all out. But there'll be some days of the week and some workout profiles where maybe we're targeting hard and very hard, and other ones we're targeting moderate. And if you're not in that RPE, we're going to adjust it for you. And this is another part of data that I think will push our data set ahead, because it's extremely, this is extremely important in order to do some of the FTB predictions and all the kind of things that we want to do in the future.
Aaron, could you switch to, because we have 2 other types of surveys that can be served to you too, depending on the different outcomes, right, Nate?
Yes.
Yeah, so probably good to cover those ones. So Aaron, if you want to flip over to that one, go ahead.
Okay, so on this, this is super duper important too. When you struggle with the workout and you don't do it as prescribed, we need to know what the reason was. What was the primary reason? And oftentimes it's a multitude of reasons. But what our system needs to know is what was the primary reason. Let me walk you through these. You've probably felt all of these before, right? Every one of us. So you felt that the first one is intensity. And we've all done this. The workout was just too hard for you, right? And that is the main reason. There's nothing else going on in your life. It's just the intensity. The next one is training fatigue. I mean, how many times have you done a workout? You think you should be able to do it, but it wasn't too intense. You just feel drained inside because you've been training so much recently. That will also then feed into our system. 3, nutrition. You ever have it where you skip breakfast, you try to do a workout that's like sweet spot, and you fail? You're like, I would normally do it, I just messed up my nutrition, or maybe you didn't eat. Doing that will also help us learn, and hopefully, actually, we're going to serve you education along with this to help improve those things. Next one is sleep. You didn't sleep last night, right? You stayed up really late for work or for school, you got 2 hours sleep, it's bad.
A big podcast, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, kids, you're a new mom or dad, a new parent, and being lack of sleep is real, right? And that needs to be known so that we can adjust. Stress or motivation. That's big. I would say the podcast day is more of a stress day, or you have low motivation of the reason why you did it. And I've totally done that too, where I could achieve a workout. Actually, this happened yesterday. I started a workout. We had a lot of stuff going on, and I was just like, nope. Stress and motivation. Problem with me, it's just not my day, and I don't have to gut through it. Sick. We want to know when you're sick. That's important, and that's a whole other reason why you might not do a workout. Sure, seems like there's a lot of reasons. It's very easy to go through these quickly as we glance through it. Injury. Injury is one of them. If you fail a workout because of injury, we need to know that. Or device issue. So if for some reason your power meter ran out of batteries in the middle of the workout, well, you didn't really fail it. You just had a device issue, and we want to keep moving you forward. And you can also type something in. So what our system will do, and our employees, is as you type in other things, if we miss something and not in one of these major buckets, we can add more buckets inside of it. But this is very important training data, and this is what you would tell if Coach Chad was coaching you, and you missed, or you had an issue with a workout. Chad would say, well, what's going on? And if you said, I just didn't sleep well last night, Chad could adjust based on that. Yes, Amber.
Right. One of the cool things about this, so our system is keeping track of all this in the background, but the other part of this that's going to be awesome is we'll display these back to you. So when you go back and you look at your training, you'll be able to visually see for the workouts that you were struggling with, what were the reasons, and it's going to help you to perhaps pick up on some patterns. And you might say, man, I haven't been feeling that great. And you go back and you look at your training, you're like, oh, 10 out of the last 15 workouts, I wasn't sleeping well. Maybe I really need to focus on my sleep for the next couple of weeks. And these are going to be things that are going to help you learn about yourself as an athlete at the same time as our models are learning how to adapt your training better for you. So it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be a new kind of window into your own training. And again, like Nate said, we're going to be offering a lot of educational material around this too. So that if you start to find some points where you're consistently struggling, maybe with nutrition, for example, that's something that we can help you to try to get on top of. So it no longer is a limiter for you.
Yep.
And for all the value that these surveys contribute, this is basically, we have all this fancy machine learning that's going on in the background. So all this analysis takes place, but this is your opportunity to assess how you felt, how it went for you. So this is the subjective end that's missing in so many situations that we now have access to.
Right. Yeah. So, and this is an important point to make. You could ask the question, well, will this spiral my training out of control, right? Like if I'm just like overachieving, could it somehow take me out of control? And this is the built-in system of checks and balances with objective performance data analyzed by ML and subjective feedback provided by you based on how the workout felt and the reasons behind that. That's the system of checks and balances that always keeps it within the range that it needs to be. It's incredible. It sounds weird, but it's so fun to train with it because of that, because then all the workouts are just always calibrated, like I said before. And there's one other too, because we talked about one reason or another why you may have failed the workout, but also cutting the workout short is another reason to throw a survey up. Maybe Aaron can put that one up. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah. So if we can detect, it's very easy. You don't need machine learning for this. If you didn't do the whole workout, and then we have is, the option of why you ended a workout early is just time. I didn't have enough time. How many times does it happen where you miss the last interval because you have an appointment or your kids or dinner and you just don't do it? And that too is important for us to know, because that is so different than, hey, I didn't have the time versus my training fatigue is so high right now that I can't finish this workout, versus I have a 5 o'clock appointment and it's 4:55 and I pick it off right now to hit my Zoom call. So yeah, do you have anything to say about that, Amber?
No, you nail it. Yep. Sorry, I'm gesturing a lot over here because I'm excited.
I just want to add one point for the people who are listening, who aren't seeing these surveys. We're listing a lot of options in each of these surveys, but first off, you're going to get served one survey based on what happened. Secondly, each of these surveys is super cleanly designed. I think the first time you get the survey, it's probably going to take you 10 seconds to read all the options. Every time after that, it'll probably take you all of 3 seconds to pick which one and then move forward.
It's one click. That's the thing to remember about this. It doesn't add to your training experience. This isn't adding load to your training, right? It's super easy. Yeah.
We're all about reducing cognitive load over here.
And what you should be getting to is the vast majority, especially a new system, is just how did it feel? So 1 through 5, how did it feel? And you get going. In our own system, 6% of our train road rides, I believe someone, Alhan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 6% of all train road rides are failures where they don't do it as prescribed. And those are, if you take the amount of whatever your correct level is, they are heavily weighted to people doing workouts above their current level. They're too high. So as this new system, as you use this new system, it should adapt to training. The amount of failure should get a lot lower. Unless, you do, it does happen though, right? Like, especially the time one, it happens for a lot of people.
Sure.
So how I want to set expectations for this too, because there are, if you're not in the industry and understand machine learning and AI, which you might think of as the movies, where you think there's this singularity where we will turn on an AI and it will then flip, and then the whole world will change because this thing will automatically learn and move forward.
Skynet.
Yeah. And if a singularity happens, in my opinion, we will all be dead within a few hours.
Wow, really? That bad,
say these humans are not good for its own existence, and it will do it. I don't think that's happening. You can think of this though like self-driving cars, which is another thing I think in 20 years it's inevitable. None of us will drive self-driving cars, where it is a stepped improvement, where it is constant and it keeps getting better and better and better. So for us, what we want to do is other things that we need to bring into the system to make it react faster and make that model more accurate that we're looking at. And there's a really cool thing is we can bring this data in, and if it doesn't make the model more accurate, like there's no correlation with, and this is with so many age, training history, gender, all these sort of things. If there's no correlation, for us, that's pretty good. One, the ML won't use it or it won't be influenced by it, but it's a pretty good understanding that maybe in a larger sense of science, that this isn't as impactful as we thought. But some stuff we want to do, sleep data. I'd love to have automatic
Sleep
recorded
data.
sleep data for
Wow.
people, and that's one thing we want to bring in.
Wow.
Resting heart rate. So resting heart rate in the morning. Not everyone can do it, but for those who can do it, that'd be great data. HRV data. We haven't talked about that very much in the podcast because we believe the science is a little bit mixed, but bring into this system to have HRV data and then tie it to
Right, Trey would
quantitative
say,
and
whoop, whoop.
qualitative data about your performance. Ooh, and the ML will really be able to, we think, pick up stuff in there. And the last one, this is something I'm so excited for, is menstrual cycle tracking. So, and how your menstrual cycle impacts your training. And not just for everyone, but also for what birth control you're on, if you're in menopause,
Wow.
your period. Because what happens is,
That's
I guess Amber, you should explain this,
nuts.
but before you, I got to normalize it. I'm going to normalize it, Amber, having men talk about a period, because that's also very, it's like a stigma, and not enough training companies do it. So I'm going to say a little bit, Amber, and you can take it from there if you want to. But generally, what we want to prove in our data set, but generally the thought is, right before you start your period, that is when you should have more of a recovery, lower intensity workouts. And then based on your hormones, when you start your period, that is actually when you want to have harder workouts. You're more like a guy inside of that, and you can handle more intensity. So we have the new system with levels and progressions, and we can dynamically change it. We actually started building the, it's NCT for short, menstrual cycle training tracking inside of our system. It's pretty far along, but that is something we want to launch so that you can, and we're going to pull it in from Garmin too. You can track your menstrual cycle, you track symptoms, and then we can look at that and use ML to figure out, is this true for you or for a cohort of this birth control, something like that. Did I get it right, Amber?
Yeah, I mean, is it true for you right now? Is what was true for you last year still true for you? These are things that we want to talk about, and everybody is different. So when you start to dig into the effect of the menstrual cycle on training, yes, there are some clear patterns that have emerged in the science where certain hormones have some influences on training, but they don't influence everybody to the same degree or in the same way. A lot of women really struggle with their RPE around ovulation, for example, which is really different from women who struggle with PMS, the premenstrual syndrome, when you have that kind of hormone shift right before your period. So these are all open questions that are really hard to drill into for just a general at a population level. And then the other thing is, a lot of women athletes are on birth control. So you're dealing with, irregular cycles, different types of birth control. If any women listening who are on birth control, every single one is going to affect you in vastly different ways. And we know that that's probably affecting your training as well. The degree to which it's affecting your training is probably different too, and what age you are. Some women are perimenopausal, and we can't even, when we're talking about master's plans, for example, when you're looking at women, what constitutes masters? Is it perimenopause? Is it menopause? Because we know that that's going to hit at a lot of different ages. And so is it your chronological age that's going to determine how this is affecting your training? Is it your hormone levels? I mean, so there are so many open questions here that we can, what we'd like to do is be able to get this into our machine learning models. And what adaptive training is doing is it's creating the infrastructure, and that's going to allow us to be able to do this. So we'll be able to see if there are some population level patterns that we can detect. And if not, we can hopefully be able to drill down on what's going to be the best way for you to adapt your training, because maybe the hormone shift for you right before your menstrual cycle isn't affecting you to the degree that you need to alter your training. And maybe altering your training means that you're leaving something on the table. We don't know that yet, but that's something that we really want to find out. And I think that that's going to be what's really, really going to help a lot of our women athletes.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, one thing that I want to clarify on this too is that this is all the sort of data that you would be able to opt in on sharing with the system if that's what you wanted, right? So this is I want to make that clear. It's not like we're already collecting data without anybody's permission.
Yeah,
on that stuff, so.
Yeah. No, and this kind of data is really, really sensitive, and we've talked about this. And when we get to a point where we'll be able to pull this in and allow our athletes to track this with their training, we'll make sure that we have some really significant safeguards in there in terms of protecting the privacy of your data, because this stuff, it's personal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chad.
Chad, did you have something?
Yeah, so Nate went over a few of the features that we want to add, and one of them that didn't get mentioned was steps. So whereas MCT is clearly specific to females, steps is broad to all of us. And what's super interesting about that, and it's just a demonstration of all the things that we might have access to down the road, is the difference between a 100 steps day and a 10,000 steps day. And these things happen commonly, right? How does it impact the ride you have later that day? What are the effects based on the ride you had the day prior? I mean, there's all things we can start to look at patterns and say, this person did 10,000 steps this day, then they did a sweet spot workout, and they quit the workout early and reported fatigue as the reason. Well, now we can start to say, on the days where your step count's high, I mean, these are possibilities down the road.
Yeah.
No, we already are, Chad, but we just don't have the step data. So what my hypothesis is if you have a step data out of normal, I believe that we're going to write so I'm doing too much oversharing, but too late.
Let's pause that. Let's get this shared. All right. Workout solid. Felt good. Get the cadence numbers up here. Where is it? Cadence. Looks good. Couple spin ups. 53, 55, 55, 58, 58, 53. Good. All under 60. That's what we're looking at. Solid work. All across. Okay. That looks good. Okay. What we're going to do is we'll take a minute to kind of load up a Trainer Road on the side. And I want to show you one of the features that I have access to that I'm watching. Let's keep riding here. All right. Let's see if we can do this all at the same time. Let's see. I could do it in this. I could do it in this window. We'll go here. I'm gonna need to unpair my trainer though. Let me unpair this. That way, Trainer Road can pick it up. The Trainer Road. it is. And I'll bring it down to the window so you guys can take a look at how this all works. All right, let me make that a little smaller. Fit in the window. And we'll bring it over here. If I can let go. It looks like Trainer Roads picked it up, which is nice. Gotta make sure you can see my window. Happens to it. I know what happened. Here, for goodness sake. The screw capture. There it is. All right. There's the whole monitor. There's the Trainer Road screen here. Oh, you can't see the top. I gotta cut it out. It's cut out. In the small window? Ah, yeah. In the big window. In here. All right. Let's open this up. Put that in the window. Get a chance to see that. I gotta not spin here. Transform. Fit to screen. There we go. Okay. So you've got a couple things. You got all the workouts here at the top. You got train now. So like right now, 6. I've got about an hour left. So what I'll do. All right. Okay, we'll do it from the beginning. Let me load this up. Do a quick outro intro so I can use this as a recording later. And then I'll be right back. 30 seconds. What's up? What's up? Coach Flo here. And I am jumping on. Just listened to the most recent Trainer Road podcast, talking about a couple new things that they are unveiling and releasing on their app. I've got the most updated app here. I've got Trainer Road updated right here on the side. And one of the features that they talked about that's really interesting is called Train Now. And so right now, what you can do is come across the top and you can choose the duration of time. I've got 60 minutes here. So I'll drop down and hit 60 minutes and we'll look at a couple different workouts. They did mention a couple things like achievable, what was the other one? In the zone, stretch goal. Those aren't available yet. I don't have access to the adaptive training quite yet, but we can refresh this and you can kind of mix in and you can choose whether you want to do an endurance workout, climbing workout. Oh my gosh, let me get this paired. All right. Okay, so that helps. All right, so then we can choose, I could choose. I've got an hour left, what I want to do, climbing, attacking, whatever it may be, and we can kind of work it through. You want smooth steps, you want long attacking VO2 efforts, you want threshold workouts, or you want tempo. So let's do Echo 5 slide. I want something more consistent. We'll do this. So I'll hit this black. It's got the workout details there. And then I'll hit open. And that should lock me in. Let me get to standard mode. And there we go. All right, so I typically do these in level. So I can get the low cadence in. on level 1. About level 2 is usually good. I'll minimize that window. We're gonna get back to the show. All right. All right, let's get playing.
About what I believe it is, if you're a 2,000 step person and you have a 10,000 step, I believe that will then influence your training. Or I think the other way too, if you have a very minimal step, that might be a precursor to failing workouts in the future. And our prediction around that. That's what I think, but that's an example of a feature. So you can just tell, like that little discussion about how important it is to engineer these features right. Because we just say just a number of steps without looking at your history of the change of steps. Some people do 10,000 every day, and it's no big deal for them. Some people do a lot less, and 10,000 a day would be huge for them. So we're kind of trying to look at like differences between the normalcy. For the classification, what I want to talk about is inside and outside workouts, structured and unstructured workouts. So what we have today is if you do a trainer workout or you do a structured trainer road workout outside, it works and we classify. What we are currently working on now, and this is only internal, this is not ready to share for everybody, but it's classifying unstructured outside rides. And what we want to do is if we want to get a level in a training zone or zones for an outside ride. For instance, let's you go outside, you just turn on your Garmin or Wahoo and you do 2x20 a threshold, and then you tack on 4 hours after that, that would be a legit ride. But you're a beast. Yeah. You're a beast. And our system today has the IF, the average power, the TSS, all of that kind of data, the duration. But what we want to know is, okay, we want to give you credit for the threshold in there, and we also want to give you credit for the endurance in there. And that then can then adjust your rides more. And we understand there's a difference in a lot of people between not just power meters, but indoor and outdoor, elevation. All of these things are being considered to put it into that feature when it's ready, just to kind of to tell people ahead of time. So that's, again, my workouts internally get classified as this, but we're just trying to increase the accuracy of what we're doing with the model and to move that forward. Another cool thing that we do, because we need a complete training picture for you, a lot of you train outside without a power meter. But we need to be able to get that stress, to get a good, we need to qualitatively measure that stress. So what our machine learning team's done is we have this huge data set of people training with a power meter and a heart rate monitor, right? So what we've done is we use machine learning and said, okay, here's this data set of someone with a heart rate monitor and a power meter, and now tried a different set where we have both heart rate and power meter, but it tried to guess the TSS based on what the heart rate was for the workout, and then it has the actual outcome afterward. And now we've trained it, and what we have is today is ML-based heart rate. What's the marketing name for this?
HRTSS.
HRTSS. So if you do a workout without a power meter, that TSS can be fed in because that has implications on intensity and stuff that you've done. And that's really super cool. We tried using other algorithms that are like kind of public, but we found that our machine learning beat those and tightened it up. And of course, it's not going to be ever as tight as a power meter. If you have a power meter, that is better, but this kind of shores up some missing data pieces for us in order to move that further. Okay, where should we go next to train?
I think that, so we have some stuff to cover on the future features as well, but one thing I want to cover too on the data side of things, a few people have been like, well, this is a lot of data, and then they have like the standard big data fears. Nate, we comply to GDPR regulations in terms of sharing or of privacy with data and everything else like that. Do you want to go over that really quick? Yeah,
we don't share data with anybody. The only thing that we share is if you specifically come into our system and you say, push my workouts to Garmin or Strava, that's like you authorize it, but we don't sell anything. We don't share anything. Our machine learning is all anonymized. It doesn't know who you are. All of that stuff's super important for privacy. And then the GDPR, for those who don't know, that is a very strict European privacy law stuff. And what we just did is said, hey, we're going to apply it to the whole world because why not? I thought it was a good idea, GDPR. And it made it easier for us because instead of having like, oh, if you're in the US, do all these sort of things. And if you're in Europe, do these sort of things, we just said, we'll do GDPR everywhere. And that's made it easier too as more countries come up with these strict privacy laws. But again, I want to be, and we're not sharing or selling this data with anyone. The only stuff is if you make your workout public and you share it to someone or you push it to Strava, people can see it there, but there's a nice button under your profile that says private, and then no one can ever see any of your stuff ever again, which is, again, super duper important. Okay, so now I want to talk about some other kind of future stuff and some things that are actually there right now. 100%, one of our goals in the system is if you don't want to do a ramp test, you never have to do the ramp test again. You could kind of do that now. It's not automated, but I know some people, there's like...
there's like cheers. Dancing with honking their horns in their cars.
But you can imagine this progressive system is, and I talked about it, if you are a level 8 at like a 300 FTP, well then you're another level at 320 where we can then start you over in the progression and start you going forward. And it is internally, you can do it by deleting your ramp test or changing your FTP, but it's not as automated as you want, but that is on the near-term roadmap to do that. And the one thing, I still like the ramp test because it gives you a very solid measurement of this is where you're at, and I am a data science nerd, and I want to know that. But also there is this, when you do a recovery block, recovery week, what happens there is, we're not absolutely sure how much you're going to improve, how much you're going to bounce back. So by doing the ramp test, we can adjust your training a little quicker, but we can also play on the conservative side, and the surveys will adjust, and you'll move forward after that. And I mean, it's still a great way to train. We're going to hammer this in over the years. You don't have to be at the limit all the time, right? And you don't want to be at the limit all the time because that's going to lead to burnout long term. And next week too, we're going to do a bigger podcast. And we're going to show even more data about our plans and what plans for which person and what kind of improvements you can get, which is very exciting. But I think it's just exciting too to not have to do a ramp test. Okay.
I don't know. I think there's at least a few happy people in the chat right now. That might be an understatement.
Testing's hard, yeah, for sure.
It is hard.
Okay, so now I want to talk about FTP prediction. This is chef's kiss.
Yes, it's awesome. It's pretty darn cool, man.
And so what we built is based on the data. And again, remember, we have this data set of people doing only outside rides. Only outsides for years. Some people stay with TrainerRoad, they suspend their account, they come back. We got the data for the outside ride. TrainerRoad training plans, no training plans, workouts before they ever did training plans at different ages. And what we've done now is we've used our machine learning, the same kind of technique, to predict, based on what's on your calendar, what FTP you will have at different times. And that's what we have. So we have all these features in, and this is the jam, right? This is what everybody wants. And we know, here's some caveats though. FTP isn't everything, right? We talked about it before. Your ramp test result is not everything. And even your level within the ramp test, that's a lot better, right? Because if you're a level 10 anaerobic versus a level 1 anaerobic, completely different fitness. And also that also brings into what is, naturally brings into repeatability. So if you're a crit racer, it's not just all about your 1 minute power, it's how many times you can go hard for 1 minute. Cross country racer, very, very important. But our levels automatically kind of build these things in. So this FTP prediction, what we've done then is we've chained blocks together. So at the end of a block, it gives you a range of what your FTP is probably going to happen. And as you do workouts, you do breakthroughs or stretch, or you miss a workout, or you schedule vacation, that range changes about where it is. And this takes into account, your training history, your age, your gender, everything we can think of. Plus, we're going to bring in more stuff. And what we want to do is we want to narrow that window to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And the idea is we're never going to say, in 6 weeks your FTP is going to be X. But we're going to show, it's just like retirement, a glide path. So it's going to be somewhere in here. And then as you achieve your workouts and as things happen, it's going to get closer and closer and closer until you're the day before, where we know it for sure about what your performance is based on the levels in a progression system, about how fast you are. Just like retirement, you don't know where you're going to be 20 years from now, but the day before you retire, you know. It's where you're at, which is really super cool. So inside of this FTP prediction too, what we're doing is the idea of cohorts and individual models. So cohort's a fancy word just to say like a group of people. And so a cohort might be 65-year-old men, or 65 plus, or 60 to 65. And then it might be with this much training history too, or this much recent training history. And what our goal as a company is to take these FTP predictions, and then when I say titrate, what I mean is just like filter. So filter into cohorts and see if that then increases the accuracy. So when you first start TrainerRoad and you sign up and you're a 60-year-old postmenopausal woman, we can better predict your FTP and progress you through these systems and space intensity better than if you're a 22-year-old man, which I think we all believe there's probably gonna be some differences in physiology there about what they should do. So as we build those, and then the goal, we don't have this running today for FTP prediction, but to run individual models and see if those models, for you specifically, beat the cohort or the general model, and that's where we want to go. So again, it's that step forward of how much can we improve, how much more accurate can we get, what other data can we get, and we bring in the system to get better and better and better. Amber, you had some comments on this too.
Yeah, so one thing that science has made clear is there is no single silver bullet solution that's going to work for everyone. And just like nutrition, optimizing, really what it comes down to is adjusting levers and knobs. And it's more about adjusting levers and knobs than it is discovering one perfect prescription. So with AT, what's really cool is we're going to be able to use the machine learning to look at how these different levers and knobs are going to affect outcomes for different people. And we can do that at the cohort level, looking at, again, different ages, training histories, genders, looking at, where you are in your menstrual cycle, looking at if you're perimenopausal, menopausal. These are all really cool things we'll be able to look at, and then hopefully be able to also drill down on an individual level too.
And what you'll see, and we've been guilty of this too. We previously had data sets where you have a study of 12 people and they do something. And what you look at is a large body of studies, and some of it is mixed and some of it's not, but you look for the ones that all kind of go in the same direction, and then you build data on top of that and move forward. But my prediction is, and Amber just alluded to this, it's going to be much more finely grained, much more nuanced than that, where we're not going to be able to take 12 college guys, because honestly, you look at it, it's always like 25-year-old college men, or 22, because that is the
they want to get a quick buck for the study.
Well, the researcher is recruiting at their university, and that's the only access to people they have. And also, think about the difference is if you've been training for 10 years versus 1 year, and that might both be well-trained cyclists inside of that study. And then I think the older people don't get represented very often inside of those studies. So what my prediction, and I think everyone probably agrees with this, it's going to be, there's not going to be a this is the way for everyone. And then we just have one training plan, right? That's just silly. There has been a recent criticism about polarized training that you might, or polarized training in Trainer Road that you may or may not have seen. And we're going to go dive into all the science into that next week. But the short summary of it is we don't agree with some of the way the study was read. And also we don't agree with how Trainer Road was represented. And we're just going to talk about the science, and everyone can make their own decision on that. But that being said too, what we're going to do is we are launching polarized training plans. These are going to be underneath an experimental access flag. And the idea behind this is we're going to let people who want to do them, and this will give us a very specific data set. Under this type of polarized plan, we'll have different levels of volume 2 that we can then run against other things to really make sure that, that's one, we'll talk about this more, but polarized means a lot of things, right? So even with whatever data set that we show, if it doesn't work for one person, it might work better for another person, and there might be a different version of polarized that might work for somebody else too. So I just want to say that this data set is not going to be the end-all be-all, and I think it is naive to think that there is an end-all be-all, one thing for everybody, everywhere in the world. We try to go for, let's try to figure out what's best for you and make you faster based on lots of data and constant improvement inside of it. So polarized, we're going to get that out as quickly as possible. Like really quickly, it is our CEO's next thing inside of our release.
I just want to say, not just the right way of training, for you, but the right way of training for you right now. Because what worked for me 10 years ago isn't going to be the same thing that's going to work for me right now. And so that's going to be another thing that we'll be able to look at, which will be really, really cool.
Yeah, along those lines, one aspect of the cohorts that I find especially interesting is masters athletes, obviously. But a masters athlete who started training at 45 years of age versus one who's been training since he was 18 years of age, different things are to be expected. And now we can actually tease out those differences based on things that we couldn't touch before.
If I can recap this in another way, adaptive training will allow us to serve you the best training methodology for you at that time based on your own individual strengths and weaknesses and life constraints. So that will allow us to dynamically shift between whatever you need at the moment based on your goals and what you're doing. So think about that really quick. Like it's really powerful to be able to have all of this information about yourself and this information at scale to be able to make educated decisions, and not about scientific theory about what could work, but actually scientific proof about what does work. Yeah. So then you can really have a lot of confidence in the fact that you're getting the right training. It's cool.
And so what people say is, well, hey, this is not a scientific experiment because the people who choose polarized are self-selecting, which is true. And but there is a certain aspect of real life that we want inside of this, because you do a study. There's a famous study where people were banging out threshold and VO2 max, and they were going, it was so much intensity for 6 weeks. As far as I'm aware, no study has ever presented as big of gains than in that study. And the researchers said, let's do it for another 6 weeks. And every single person said no, right? So there's a different, your motivation and your life and your whole season needs to be taken into account inside of this. So for instance, if for polarized, it has some long rides. If you don't have time for long rides or hate long rides, maybe for you individually at this moment in your life, it would not be a choice because you could not follow the prescription. Where if you're in a study, you kind of do what the researchers say for a short amount of time to get through and get paid. It's a little bit different. So anyways, that's a little tidbit of what we want to do. And I would love, as we get further through this, and there's more training methodologies that come out, or more things that have some evidence, maybe it's not perfectly clear, we can bring these in, we can test them, and the people that want to test can, and then we can slowly move them out, or based on what ML says, to the right people. Again, these are things and complexities that no human can figure out themselves, and that's why we have to do this. Chad?
I was just going to add that it's along the lines of what we did with our high volume of sweet spot base. It was a request. We didn't really think the science was there. We didn't really want to prescribe it, but we got a lot of requests, and it was like, well, a lot of people want to do it. Let's let them do it. Let's see what happens. And now we get to do that with anything that is mildly interesting and people are willing to devote themselves to.
Right.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun.
John, you want to walk us through some questions?
Let's do it. So we're going to do some frequently asked questions, then run into some live questions that you all have submitted as well. If you're joining us now on YouTube, by the way, thank you for joining us, and give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. That helps. More people will see this, so please do that. And you can also request access for the closed beta of adaptive training at a link that's pinned in the chat right now, and it will be down in the description below if you're joining afterward. If you're listening on the podcast right now, it will be at the top of the description as well for the podcast. You can go there and sign up for that. Lots of people have. It crashed the site already. The site's back. You can do it right now. So, okay, first one. This is a question that you alluded to in the beginning, and a really important one. I've seen it in the live chat too. Why does my TSS not trend like it used to now that I'm following adaptive training?
Yeah, so before we didn't have all the tools, right? So you could use a hammer when you should use a screwdriver. In TSS, we had ramp, but that example before of 4x10 versus 1x40, completely different things. You could have a nice progression over 4 weeks, building from 4x10 to 1x40, and really do great in your Olympic triathlon, sprint triathlon, or 40K TT. It would be a huge win to be able to move that, but your training stress might not go up at all that whole time. And this will mess with you, because you can have the same 400 TSS a week for a year, but have a much higher FTP, increase your performance, have PRs inside of forever different duration, and have the levels of your workout zones be a lot higher. But your TSS doesn't change, and it's going to be hard, but it's a new world, and it'll be okay. Okay, yeah. So just it's. I know, I see it too, and like it has to ramp up. but still is a good way to show if you're ramping up too much, too quickly, and that sort of stuff.
For sure.
Can I ask a question? Oh, no,
Yeah.
we'll do that. Amber, what you're writing in, we'll do it at the end.
Gotcha.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay. Next one is how do I use it, or how do I use adaptive training? We've covered this loosely, but we should probably define how it will look and feel when you use it.
Yep. And basically, there's two ways. You're on a training plan, it will adapt automatically for you. It'll ask you, it'll be prompted, and then you can have it do it automatically. Or if you're not on a training plan, you can use Train Now. We have a whole new career section coming out where it's just going to open the app. It's right there, and you can click and go. Well, that is the basics. You have to do it. That's really it. I know you explained a whole bunch of stuff, but we tried to make it super duper easy, as if you were getting coached. Here's my workout and go. For those data scientist people, there's all those edges where you can like play in and have fun and do the alternatives and look at the levels. And push yourself differently. That's for those kind of people. And I know you're listening because your personality is probably much like mine, and you want to. That's why you're listening to the podcast. But yeah, that's it.
It'll just feel like the right workout every time. You follow your plan, and it feels like the right one every time. So cool. How's my career page different? That's another one that people are going to ask.
Yeah. So your career page is going to have your progression levels, your current training plan if you're on one, or we'll have Train Now if not. Upcoming events, your upcoming time off, which is very nice to just see when your vacation is and a list, and then also see your recent workout survey responses. So that's also a way if you miss one because you didn't have enough time, you'll be prompted to be able to do it.
Can I throw in a quick question that was actually asked by Shane Miller, GP Llama, to me, and I will answer this one if that's okay, Nate. Question: somebody asked us, what happens, or how does this account for when I get a new power meter, or I get a smart trainer instead? And here's how it works: you'll get that, and then you'll do your next workout with the subjective feedback of the study, and then the objective data that we have of your performance. It will adjust your workouts based off of that. You don't have to instantly retest. At your next test, it will be even better. You'll calibrate with that. But this is another cool thing that it's going to adjust for that because of the fact that we have your objective data, subjective feedback. It adjusts, and you'll be doing the right thing.
If there's a 100-watt difference, you should retest. But if you have a 100-watt difference, one of your power meters is extremely broken. Right?
Battery doors hanging off. It's kind of
something was very wrong.
Yep. Okay. Next one. How far ahead does adaptive training adapt your plan?
Okay, so we do this per plan block, and that's how far we look ahead, and that's how far we do the like projected levels inside of a current plan block. So that's like ramp test or amp test. But the FTP prediction that looks out for as long as you have plan blocks, like whatever your plan builder thing shows or what you have on your calendar. And we do that because, again, we're not sure how much you're going to increase for the ramp test, where your next levels are going to do. So by having that ramp test, it then will adjust everything after that.
One thing to add to this too. So, and this is going to be kind of like a little shotgun load for y'all, but Nate mentioned earlier, achievable, productive, stretch, and breakthrough. A training plan intentionally within each energy system is going to give you the right amount of those workouts during a week. Like if you have 5 days of training, you're going to get the right variety of that, a very intentional one. So what this means is that if you really knock it out of the park on a certain type of workout within a specific energy system, that might mean that it's going to have a cascading effect across other energy systems and across the rest of your workouts through the block. Or it might mean that it's isolated to just that next workout that's supposed to be a productive workout that's on Tuesdays, right? So our system is intelligently keeping track of all of that energy systems independently in unique ways, depending on the goals of your event and you as an individual. So as a result, you may get one updated workout or you may get all the way even for the rest of the block. So it becomes a routine though. And it's so cool because after you do the workout, now you'll see how it influenced your levels. You'll even get confetti, makes you happy. And then after that, then you get to see what the adaptations are. It's truly addicting. It's really cool to be able to do that. Okay. Next one, I guess we kind of answered this. How often will your plan adapt? But it's worth saying very explicitly, right, Nate?
Yep. At least after every workout.
Release the Kraken.
Maybe more depending on how much time you have come out or other information that we get from the system. Yeah.
Cool. How many times can an individual workout be adapted?
Oh, lots of times. Because we're looking at a block.
Release
really, you
the
could be doing
Kraken.
things, I guess technically every day based on what you do, but it could be many, many times that the same workout could get switched around. You know, it's the fourth week or the third week. Based on what you do in the first week, it could switch. Yeah, Ever?
Release
It's
the
one way of
Kraken.
thinking about it. It's kind of like a weather forecast. So the further out your workout is, the more uncertainty we have around whether or not that's going to be the exact right workout for you. And the closer we get to that, we know with much better certainty because we know exactly what you've been doing after the day before, how you've been feeling, and then we can say, okay, this is definitely the one that's going to be right for you today. So if you think of it like a weather forecast, the further out you are from today, the more likely those workouts are to change. But the workout for tomorrow is probably the least likely to change because we have the most information going into whether or not that's the right workout for you. So think of it like a forecast. But again, it's not going to just derail your training. There's a point in having a plan and kind of being able to mentally prepare yourself for things, and we understand that. So it's not going to be vastly different. You know, we're going to give you the right workout. It's going to still be within how you plan things out, you know, within your duration, the specific power zone that you want to be targeting that day. We're just going to make sure that it's the right power. It's going to be the right workout within that power zone that's going to get you towards your goals. So it's like a forecast. It'll keep changing until you're right there, and we know exactly which workout is the right one for you that day.
Someone had a great question of like you do a ramp test, and let's say you get to like a level 10 threshold or stuff, like what happens? And this isn't built in yet, but we do think there's going to be some people where it is so far off for them that we're going to have to prompt you for another ramp test. But if you just did a ramp test, then we'll have to do some self-adjusting FTP. Like we'll have to adjust the FTP for you to give you the right spot inside of that progression. But we just have to have some data on that as people do workouts with these qualitative surveys afterwards. And that is totally in the, like, we understand. And it might go both ways where you can't do a level 1 threshold after your ramp test for some reason. I think that's not going to happen. I think the other side will happen for people who can't, don't go deep, but that it's totally like, I'm so excited to be able to have this, like, this is the floor of the base system, right? Like this is, we now have electricity in a world where we didn't have electricity. So we can, and we have all this stuff coming in that we can then make all these fine, quick adjustments to try to improve everything as it moves forward. And again, this is a process to get better. And I'm sure something will happen where you'll be like, it wasn't the best, right? But we do think it is 10 times better than it is today, but it's not perfect yet. And then
Constant improvement.
Yes,
Right.
that's, and the system, it's so cool, is it improves itself as it gets more data, which
cool,
is
right?
super, super cool. Another thing that we should talk about is we had to turn adaptive training off for all the internal users because we had some queries that were not being very kind to us, and we took down our website a couple times, and so we had like, we gotta fix these queries, and we, I know, so we fixed them, but we all had adaptive training turned off for like 2 weeks, and once you go into it, you can't go back. Like, I actually turned it on for myself for like 10 minutes because I was like, oh, I gotta know what I do.
You cheater.
I know. I was like, if I take it down, I take it down, and I'll take credit for it. But I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, everyone. But
It was so terrible. It was like it was like some sort of bad time travel movie, and you went back like centuries, and you were like without anything. That's what it felt like. Like it felt like somebody turned the lights off. It was so demotivating. And then like once it got, and actually Alhan, one of the guys in our data science team, he ended up sharing a spreadsheet that I could do that kind of helped me guide through it, but it wasn't adaptive training. And I was using that, and like I was just grasping at straws. Once I got it back, it was the best day. So yeah,
so
if
fun.
once you use this, you'll be like, how in the world did I ever train otherwise? And the cool thing is every single workout that gets reinforced just because it's like, oh, that was achievable, that was productive, that was achievable, that was like over and over. It just feels so good. So okay, so I guess we should talk about
the last part.
The base, this section right here, right?
Yeah,
We should cover those things.
Section right there.
Cool.
Okay, first off, pricing. How much more is this going to cost? Sorry to say that it's $0 more. It's just the same price. Wow. It's a horrible business decision because I know the value is way more, and we're trying to, again, we want to make the world faster, got to make it in reach for everybody, and that's what it is. Someday, especially with inflation, the price will go up, but that's not today, so everyone gets it.
Wow.
How are we going to launch this? It is available for closed beta today, and TrainerRoad users, special ones, you probably know who you are because you're very special to us, get access to it today. There's also a sign up now, and where can you sign up now? It's trainerroad.com/adaptive training. Is that right, John?
Correct. That's it. Or you can even do /AT to make it easier.
/AT, that's easy. Trainer.com/AT, that is up. And then today, what we're launching that you have available in our beta apps, by the way, those are, we just had this iOS in-app purchase thing that's an issue in Android, where you have Train Now is available today with your levels, so all that stuff is adjusted based on that, and the workout profiles that I mentioned about, the over-unders and stuff, that is all available today. And now what we have is a release cycle. This is our goal, is we're going to keep bringing in more people into the closed beta because, again, we don't want to take down the website and that sort of thing. And also, there's a couple more features that we want to build to polish things up with onboarding. And then as we get these other features done, they're going to release to everybody. So it'll be a stepped release where like you might get levels, and then you might get the survey, and then more of those things you might get in your career page. And these things will step out one at a time as they kind of get the checkbox of we get this many users that did not bring down the website, and there's no bugs, and as it goes through. And today, there's small bugs that are silly of, I don't know, we haven't talked about it, but bugs are bugs, and they will happen, and we'll move forward. So that is super duper cool. And I think right now what we should do is we should toast all of the TrainerRoad employees for doing this super, and Audrey is going to bring Chad. Chad and I are going to share some, I don't know what she bought. Let's see.
We'll find out.
Yeah, what is it?
You are adorable.
What is it?
Dom Perignon.
Dom Perignon. And
Wow.
Chad, what we also have, as you pop that, everyone pop their stuff. Chad, we have a special present for you that we built a long time ago. Can you see it yet?
We don't know about this. He's so nervous while we pop this. And also, I just want to shout out to, let's see here. His name is Corey, and he's on the live chat. And he said, you guys should have just done one more thing. Corey Bounce. Corey, buckle up.
We got, buckle up. There's one more thing coming. So this is from Chad's face, though. Bring this up.
Audrey, can you walk directly behind Chad, please?
Chad, tell her to, this is, so we have champagne, we got a live beers with Chad, but if you can see from this is Chad with a Muppet picture. That's from Beers with Chad. Yeah.
400 Watts Club. Thank you for designing that.
That's very, very funny.
Check him out on Instagram.
So, yeah, very amazing. There's one more thing is I think we should cover our Cape Epic training. Amber,
You can't get through a podcast without talking about Cape Epic.
I just love Cape Epic, and I always need to do that. So, and everyone loves it when I talk about Cape Epic. Amber, how has your Cape Epic training been going?
Actually, we should cheers at the same time while we do this, I reckon. Amber, what are you drinking? I'm drinking organic sparkling cider because health. And then Chad and Nate looks like, I don't know if they have a bottle of Don P or what they have going on there. But
Well, I want to just mention I started like a really cool training program. It's totally new, awesome, brand new bodybuilding program. Building a body. It's going to be due in August.
due in August?
What?
So I am not drinking Dom Perignon. I am also drinking some cider. Non-alcoholic.
Amber's having a baby.
I'm
Having a baby! Oh, that's the one more thing.
Off the tops. I'm sorry, cleaning crew.
So cheers to Amber's baby, and cheers to the TrainerRoad team. Everyone's been so excited about this for so long and worked so hard. This is a lot of stuff. I can't tell you how much stuff is here and how excited we are for the future inside of all of this. So cheers, everyone. Cheers to the TrainerRoad. And cheers to all of our athletes and listeners, because your feedback and your criticism of us, if you never told us these things, it would be hard to figure them out. So please keep giving the forum. It's great. I do read it all.
There you go. Super interesting. All right. Get some music jamming. That was super interesting. you got questions about that, I'm hoping to have access to some of it here soon. I should be able to get the beta version, check out the levels on the Train Now stuff here pretty shortly. But yeah, I've got a good amount left still. What do I got? Workouts. End time 7:08, so another 30 minutes. Hey, Old Slow. What's up? What's up? Sorry, I am about to spin off. I just finished listening to super interesting video podcast from the coaches and designers of Trainer Road at trainroad.com, releasing some information about what's called adaptive training. So super interesting. Essentially, it's AI, machine learning, watching riders train and adjusting their training accordingly, the same way a coach would. So trying to put coaches out of business, I think AI, machine learning is going to be the way to go. That's nuts. But yeah, for those viewers that just popped in, thanks for joining in. If you like cycling, indoor cycling, fun conversation, like and follow the channel here at TeamODZ.live. We'll be back on every morning around this time. So I'm just finishing up a long workout, about 90 to 100 minutes in. So thanks to everybody for joining in, and I will catch you on the next live stream. Everyone have a good day. Oops. Respect.